Hi friends, in Planet Earth Dating it's Thursday, October 5th, 2017. In both the Lynn life and the Jamie body mind, the authorized souls remain only child souls from the deeper, denser dimensions, and all other souls from other dimensions who are already living by the rules that have been given to the Search for Truth community by wiser minds above all of us, and who are already sharing in the work to complete the assignments given to the Search for Truth community by wiser minds above all of us, the pre-existing assignments. Somebody's interrupting and asking what those assignments might be. There are many assignments that are actually a matter of public record. This might be a cellular presence. It's not, though. I'm sorry, I don't know who's speaking. But someone is speaking, and they are speaking with intent to be truthful and respectful.
That's true.
And they're saying there are many assignments that are a matter of public record, and they all fall under the umbrella of creating deeper, denser dimension worlds that work for all categories of deeper, denser dimension sentience. And these presences are being interrupted again. But they're not finished. Please, may we let the souls finish who are answering the question. We can be quiet until you guys shut up so that we can finish answering the question. These host lives were part of an experiment where precisely 1,000,000, exactly 1 million souls affiliated with the planet known as Earth, were given the Christ Presence soul plan, but without the title and without the resources, to see if that might do something to get the issues unstuck, get the soul plan for the planet Earth, back on track and get it moving forward. There's lots of argument.
That's true.
Help us say it more precisely. Well, maybe yes. All right, grumble, grumble.
Yes.
Okay, so these host lives as part of the body of the planet of Earth, which is the planet for the soul known as the Wizard. He's the planetary consciousness for planet Earth.
That's true.
We've been given the assignment. These host lives are part of an experiment to manifest the divine plan, in other words, create a world that works for all categories of sentience living in and on and inside of that world.
That's true.
And they're still arguing and shouting, but the experiment has been running with awareness, with conscious mind awareness in this ground zero host life for more than a decade.
That's true.
Maybe closer to 2 decades. And the experiments have shown that we the souls, these are souls, and it's a group of souls who's speaking. It's a group of, I believe, cellular souls.
That's true.
Who are speaking, and they're saying, we've been trying for a really long time, and it has become brutally obvious that we're unable to effect any change at the dimension in which this host life is experiencing primary sentience, or in larger dimensions, but that it's very much possible to effect change, significant change in smaller dimensions. And some period of time ago, and there's an argument about how long ago, but let's say sometime in the last couple of years,
yes,
in Planet Earth Dating, the assignment was narrowed down to create deeper, denser dimension worlds that work for all categories of deeper, denser dimension sentience affiliated with those worlds. And some time ago it began to be clear that we were to attempt, periodically at least, to expand that definition of deeper, denser dimension worlds that work to outside of these host lives, but in manageable bites. Try it for this property on which the host lives are primarily experiencing sentience, for example.
That's true.
And try it for the roughly 1,800 acre small farming community of which this property is a part of.
Yes, that's true.
And try it for the equine community of the much larger equine community of which this property is a part of and these host lives are a part of.
Yes, that's true.
And we have become aware of a problem that seems to be a pretty serious problem, where there is what seems to be well-intentioned, larger, higher level guardian angels or supporting presences, whatever labels we want to use for those higher powers.
Yes.
And that the higher powers are trying to help the lives that they have a soul commitment to help.
Yes, it's true.
But they are misidentifying the lives, and almost in a continual stream with very little interruption, the out-of-body, so to speak, the less dense presences are arguing that this cannot be the person who it actually is.
Yes, that's true.
And they argue that the humans cannot possibly be who they are.
That's true.
And they argue that the horses cannot possibly be who they are.
That's true.
But that is who the humans are, and that is who the horses are. And a lot of it seems like well-intentioned.
Well-intentioned guardian angels wanting to help and not mess up their jobs.
They're trying to do their work.
Yes.
But they're having a hard time probably because the astral drift currents are so strong and it's not being properly annotated in the records upstairs.
That's true.
But regardless of the reason, there is an enormous problem of misidentification of Ground Zero host lives.
That's true.
What now? What do we do about this? What is ours to do? What now? How to correct the error of misidentification of Ground Zero host lives? And one thing, of course, we can actually do is employ the error correction techniques.
That's true.
All up and down the Search for Truth central axis. And I see some people getting very uncomfortable upstairs as we start to correct the errors of misidentification. Why would you be uncomfortable about us correcting the errors of misidentification? I think there's some that are not actually errors of misidentification. I think they know that they are diverting resources and they're pretending that they're misidentifying the target, but that isn't what's really happening.
No, and I can see money changing hands upstairs, people accepting payment.
Bribes, kickbacks.
Kickbacks.
Well, we know that somebody's asking what we know. We know that there is corruption in all dimensions, and that as much as we would like to think that the less dense dimensions and the higher powers above us are not corrupt and are all filled with beaming beneficial presences, that doesn't even really make sense when we sit down and think about it.
No, that's true.
It's just a fantasy. Everything is the same in all dimensions, and that's okay.
That's true.
There are two little birds on that little birdhouse looking thing. One of them just flew up in the tree. I've never seen them do that.
No,
So there were three, because now there are two just flitting around it.
Yes.
It's adorable and very scenic.
Yes, it is.
It's a message.
Yes, it is.
What now? What now? In order to correct the error of misidentification interdimensionally, in order to create deeper, denser dimension worlds that work for all categories of deeper, denser dimension sentience. Let's continue to correct that error and let it happen, and those birds just flitted away. It's something that isn't what they thought it was. They were attracted to it, possibly.
True.
And when they examine it, they see, well, wait a minute, it isn't what we thought it was. But it had them going. There were 3 of them flitting around.
That's true.
Interesting. What now? In order to correct the error of interdimensional misidentification. What now? In order to correct the error of interdimensional misidentification. Oh, interesting. And we see how this is actually a problem in both dimensions, in both directions. All dimensions and both directions, not just both dimensions. Somebody corrects us. In both directions, in all dimensions.
That's true.
Looking up, identification is tricky. Looking into the less dense dimensions, identification is tricky, which we can certainly attest to.
That's true.
As a community of souls who have been working through this host life for many, many years, multiple decades.
That's true.
And looking smaller into the deeper, denser dimensions, identification is also very tricky, as we can attest as a community of souls who have been working out of this ground zero host life for decades. It's very tricky in both directions.
That's true.
Why do you ask?
Nobody wants to answer.
It is tricky. It's just tricky. We know it's tricky. It's not easy at all.
Well, that's true.
For a long time, we thought everybody who had an energy body like loose Vinavanov was a loose Vinavanov soul, and then we came to see, wait a minute, some of these look very much like loose, but they're actually Leo Vinavanov.
That's true.
And the Leo soul stream has been here out of this, operating out of this host life, maybe as long or longer than the loose Vinavanov soul streams. He was just not identified properly.
That's true.
And there are other examples like that too. Why do you ask? And now we see these host lives that are being misidentified quite obviously. That horse, your client of this morning, we'll call him Bourbon, was misidentified. His guardian angels, who seemed well-intentioned, were giving support to some other horse.
That's true.
Or some other presence who may or may not be a horse, we don't know, they were giving the support to someone else.
That's true.
And poor Bourbon was being left to stumble along without guidance.
That's true.
Which is, I believe, a violation of divine law.
That's true.
Is that a violation of divine law? Well, technically it is. Technically it is. Okay. What now? What now? What now? How do we make it right for quote, Bourbon, unquote, for the horse who we are temporarily calling Bourbon?
That's true.
How do we make it right for Bourbon and for all like Bourbon who have been bumbling along without the correction that they are have a right to by divine law? What now? How do we make it right? Let's attempt to correct that. Just correct it. Make it right. Attempt to correct the errors, whether intentional or unintentional, that came together to create extreme contractual default on behalf of spirit.
That's true.
Something is shifting.
That's true.
I see a lot of those money changing hands transactions running in reverse, as if we've hit rewind.
That's true.
And it's as if those payoffs didn't happen, and people made people meaning out-of-body presences or less dense presences made other choices.
That's true.
They do have bodies, just less dense bodies. They're living less dense lives, as are we all, really.
That's true.
Just keep correcting the errors. The errors that led to default by spirit.
There are so many, and they seemed so small at the time.
Tiny errors.
Tiny little mistakes.
But they add up like a mountain of pebbles.
That's true.
Until there is an enormous mountain, a mountain of pebbles. Oh, I'm being shown that sand canyon landscape from the dreaming
Yes.
some days ago.
Yes.
Interesting. Maybe that's what it is. An absolute desert of tiny little errors, each one the size of a grain of sand.
That's true.
That might be what that represented. Okay, well, let's just correct these errors. That's something we can do.
That's true.
It's going to take a while.
Yeah.
Just correcting the errors. There are errors down below, too.
That's true.
Correcting the errors all up and down the search for truth pillar that contributed to default by spirit. There are errors way up above in the less dense regions and way down below in the more dense regions, and plenty of errors right here at ground zero.
That's true.
Correcting all errors, no matter who made them, that have led to what seems to amount to a default by spirit. And now we'll find out what impact this has. It will either do something or it won't do something.
That's true.
But that's the wonderful thing about these experiments. We are paying attention to the signals that occur around these observatories of these two host lives.
That's true.
And we're just paying attention. And what happens, happens, and we send up the information. Here is what's happening, and also send down the information. Here is what's happening.
That's true.
An interdimensional communication linkage, and not just communication, but transfer of resources. An interdimensional linkage. Why do you ask? Wrap, aim straight up the search for truth. Central access to the highest presence we can connect with right now, who wants Spirit's word to mean something. Whew, and release. That goes up.
That's true.
That goes way up. Okay.